Hello and welcome back to Gridiron Gurus. My name is Luke, and joined with me is,
Ryan Green.
and today we're going to be doing our Week 4 predictions for the NFL season. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm actually doing pretty good, after the win.
Yeah,
It's just it's great not going 17. There's still some
yeah.
teams who might, but probably not.
I don't think there'll be an 0-17 team this season with how Giants won and y'all won. I think those were the two big culprits that everyone figured probably might go 0-17. But we'll recap. I guess there was a good game that happened last night. Um,
Yes.
but we're going to recap one game from last week, which was probably the most impactful game. I guess
hmm
it's really going to matter in the NFC West standings: the Niners versus the Rams, where both these teams are absolutely riddled with injuries. The Rams a little bit
Yes.
more so than the Niners. The Rams are obviously missing. I think they're missing Steve Avila. I think they're missing Jonah Jackson. They're missing Nate Noteboom. They're
Yeah,
missing
they're already
obviously
missing
Nakua,
like their
Cup,
yeah.
and they're missing Tyler Higbee. And then like the Niners are missing their right guard, and then Kittle, Ayuk, not Ayuk, Debo, and
Sable.
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So they're missing all. Like you can
And
make
also
like a
Hargrave. Hargrave is now
Hargrave.
gone for the rest of the season.
Yeah. So you could make you can make like a Super Bowl offense with the amount of players that were out in this game. But the Rams pulled it out. This is a Sean McVay kind of masterclass coaching. I think if it wasn't really apparent before, I think it is now. He is the better coach. I think
hmm
he's the best coach in this division, and I think he's probably the best coach in the conference. Um, and you could make an argument for best coach in the league. I wouldn't really fight you too hard on that. I've stand with that for a while. I'm a huge
I would
Sean
still be
McVay
with
guy.
Andy Reid, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm a huge Sean McVay guy. He's one of the best play callers in the league. Now Shanahan is a great coach. Like if he
Yes.
got fired, which he's not going to get fired, but if he was, he'd be on the market for all of like 1 second before he got a
If okay,
huge
no, no,
bag
no.
thrown at him.
If he's on the market, Walmart will personally like visit him and be like, "Hey, you're coming to the Denver Broncos. You're bringing on the Shanahan legacy. How much money do you want?"
Yeah, the he would be a free agent coach for like not any time. So, but he's not on the hot seat. I've seen some Niners fans get frustrated with him, and I understand it. But in this game, Purdy played good. It was the Jawan Jennings legacy game. Kyron Williams went off, thankfully for fantasy. For me, I beat you this week. A little
I, I've
unfortunate.
gone, I have gone back to back weeks of 127 and 129, and I've lost both of them.
Yeah, you were the number two leading scorer last week by like 12 points, and you lost by 50
The
because my
fact
team
that
just
my
went
yeah,
off.
the fact that my bench beat a couple of people is embarrassing for them.
Yeah,
And it's stupid. That's the one thing about fantasy. Sometimes it's just about matchup. But
dude, I have so your points four is now ahead of mine, but mine and yours point it's mainly because you got 180 and dropped on you. But
yeah,
mine and yours points four is so much higher than anybody else's in the league. It's kind of crazy. But that's this little tangent I just wanted to flex real fast.
yeah.
I got the
We
I
both
got
know how to
the
draft. We both know how to
the
draft.
rivalry match. I won it. But they leaned on the run really hard. The Rams did. I
Mm.
think in like the first like two drives. I don't even think they attempted a pass. I don't know. I saw them like run it. Oh, I was like checking the box score a little bit as I was like driving. I think I just had like the app up and it just said run for Crown Rose for 4 yards. Run again. Run again. Run again. Punt. Run. And then they ran that fake punt with Ronnie Rivers.
Mhm.
But this is just a great this Rams defense is still not very good in my opinion. Um, but
It's a young defense for sure.
this was this was a game you had to have if you were the Rams. Basically, if you drop to 0-3 with the amount of injuries you have, it's probably wraps. But
Without
there's
the Seahawks being 3-0, that's the other thing
yeah,
too. You have to just try to keep pace.
and you would have had a like you'd have been 2 games behind the Niners. Now you're tied. You're ahead of the Niners now because you beat them. So you got the tiebreaker on them. So that was a huge win for the Niners or for the Rams. What were your thoughts on it?
No, I agree. I think the other thing too, we already talked about how well of a job that Sean McVay did, but it's another one of those things where we kind of touched on it with Shanahan. You're up big. You make some interesting decisions. Now, obviously, yeah, we talked about injuries, but it's one of those things that continues to kind of haunt Shanahan. Is these just it's kind of the same thing way also with John Harbaugh too. Of like both of them are like good coaches, but like they seemingly have this just aura about them that they're gonna choke it with the lead. They're gonna choke it. No lead is safe. And in this moment when like you're up big because what was this? I'm trying to think what the
It was
score
like
was.
24-14 with like
Yeah,
3 minutes in the third quarter.
it was that, and then like early on, it was like they were up.
It
They're
was
up by
14
like
zip. Yeah, yeah.
14. Yeah, it's like one of those things where like I don't know how to answer that for you because this is a desperate win that you desperately need to have because it's a division rival. But with the fact that the Seahawks, I think are going to be a very tough matchup for them when they face them like down the road. Not only is this bad for the division, but this is also going to be bad for your for your seeding because like a lot of these games, especially like we're going to talk about the Bills Ravens, those are early indicators for playoff seeding. And yeah, it's early in the season, but a lot of those are going to come back to bite you. I think that's what's going to happen for the 49ers is that Rams get a very crucial win, and because they got this win, they're kind of able to kind of like go into next week. They're going to get hopefully they can go 2-2, kind of steady the ship a little bit more. And if you're the 49ers, you're in a very tough spot because you've got a lot of injuries. You're kind of going that little curse of like the Super Bowl hangover. Hopefully they can get together, but it's very indicative of what could potentially happen for the 49er season.
Yeah. Um, but now I guess we can move on to the week 4 now. We have a Thursday night football game, a division rivalry game of honestly, I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people would have expected. It's Cowboys at New York Giants. Giants obviously coming off the win against the Browns. The Cowboys got beat again by the Ravens, and they made a
Mhm.
comeback late. But they just seem to always just dig themselves in these holes way too early, and they can't dig themselves out. Dallas does not look like they can stop the run at all. Um, the defense, like it's a soft football team, and like that's the truth about it is they just are soft. And like
Mm,
I know that's like a boomer term, but like when you're letting people run like 300 yards, like when you look how you looked against the Saints and they just ran all over you, and then the Baltimore who had like looked like they couldn't run the ball in the first
mhm.
2 games of the season, and then they just run all over you. It's pretty indicative, and this has been like a problem for a while. It's just they face teams that have like similar talent to them, and they just fall apart.
Yep.
But I do think they're more talented in New York. I think they'll bounce back here. I know that was a good win last week. New York at Cleveland. Cleveland's not going anywhere this year.
No.
Um, but I do think this game will be close. I like New York's front. Um, Brian Burns has yet to kind of really get going, but I think he got a little bit better last week. But still, Sexy Dexy is one of the best defenders in the NFL.
Mhm.
And I think this is kind of a week that Brian Burns can turn it up, but I think they'll keep it close. Neighbors, it's a tough matchup. He'll be going up against an elite cornerback, elite secondary, but I think Dallas will get it done here.
I think based on Dallas's defensive scheme, I think they're going to do a better job than what Cleveland did, because Cleveland kind of let the neighbors kind of do whatever he wanted to. They didn't really put hands on him. So I kind of figured that they're going to, especially with Trayvon Diggs, who has the speed to kind of match neighbors. I'm hoping that they decide to really try to put the pressure on neighbors because outside of that, I like Wando Robinson. He's a good wide receiver too. Darius Slayton, is just but like at least you're hoping that Daniel Jones can like uh 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 distribute the ball well against a battered defense that they're both Lawrence and also Parsons both said this in their post game interview is that too many people are trying to play hero ball. Too many people on defense are not doing their jobs. So if the Cowboys defense is able to really just rally around that, just like, hey, we need to do our job, then I don't think it's going to be close. But if the dumpster fire keeps on burning and the Cowboys are just, a short week they don't really, they don't have a good couple of practices, then it could be a closer game than people are going to realize. I'm going to go with the fact that the Cowboys right the ship. I'm hoping that they do. So I'm thinking they're going to win handily. I'm going to be streaming the game anyways, but I don't think it's going to be close because the fact that Micah Parsons is probably going to demolish this very porous offensive line for the
Yeah.
Giants.
But then we can go into another division matchup here. New Orleans at Atlanta. This is your division, so you take the lead on this one.
So I'm actually going to this game. So I'm actually interested. I'm actually interested in this one too. Obviously, both teams struggled last week. Well, they struggled against really good teams. So the Saints had every opportunity really to win against the Eagles. It's kind of unfortunate that they didn't. Um, I think that they're going to be bouncing back against the Falcons team that I was very low on coming into the season, and I'm still kind of low on how Kirk Cousins is doing. I think he's made a couple of plays. He's done decently, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be elevating enough against a really good secondary in the Saints. And I don't know if they really like their defense matches up really well against the Saints because I think that obviously not having their center is going to be a very big deal. I'm interested to see how that's going to go, but outside of that, the other parts of the offensive line has been doing pretty good over the first 2 weeks. The third week, not so much. Um, I'm going to go with the Saints. I think it's going to be a close game, and then they kind of pull it out in the end. But in honestly, in these division games, especially Saints versus Falcons, it's always like a field goal or something like that. Like there was a couple of years ago. Really, there was the Saints Buccaneers, but also Saints Falcons that you have like them go down, like the Saints go down and they come back. And so I think it might happen again, like the Falcons with like their whole entire stadium is going to be able to put pressure on Derek Carr and flush him a little bit, but then they're going to come back and win. So I got the Saints winning by 4.
The Falcons are actually favored in this game by 1.5. Um, I'm going to pick the Saints. I want to see if like the first 2 weeks were kind of a fluke. This I think is a good get right game. They honestly could have and should have maybe won that game against the Eagles. The defense is still really good. The offense definitely struggled a lot more against a really good defensive front. Um, but I think I'm going to bank on New Orleans kind of bouncing back a little bit here against a worse defense. And I don't know, like a quarterback who's not going to move. You don't have to worry about Kirk Cousins going anywhere. So I think this game will be close. Division games are always are, but I'll take New Orleans to win this one. Then we have the Rams going to Chicago. The Bears are still winless.
Mm.
Um,
No, they don't remember they won.
oh yeah, that was stupid. Yeah, they won week 1, but they lost the last 2 weeks pretty bad. So.
Yeah, they
Um,
should have lost. They should have lost, but Will Levis gifted them that win.
so last week, Caleb Williams had a solid week. The run game of the Bears is bad. Because they went up against a really bad Colts run defense that was without DeForest Buckner, and they still couldn't run the ball.
They had like maybe 3 yards a carry, something like that. It was like combined. It
Yeah,
was really crass.
DeAndre Swift is not a good signing, at least how it looks right now. Now the
We,
Rams
we
defense isn't amazing,
mhm.
but it's not bad. It's not like it's not great. It might be a little bit bad, but it's not like going to be the worst thing ever. And I don't like this. I like the Chicago defense, but I got Sean McVay going up against a rookie quarterback that their offense has struggled really badly. Um, I'm going to take the Rams here. I don't need to talk too much about it. I just think even with all the injuries, I think they're the better team. They're better coached. Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, they'll get it done. And I think they're a little bit healthier now on the offensive line. They might be getting some of those linemen back. I don't totally know. While you're talking, I can look it up.
Yeah, I think it's like either this week or next week. They're getting some of them back. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rams as well, mainly because I think that they're going to be able to apply pressure on Caleb Williams. I agree. Same as I think with like going against a rookie QB. I also believe that Matthew Stafford's going to do at least enough, and he's been playing really well. against a really good Bears defense, they're actually able to uplift them. I am very interested to see if Caleb Williams can continue on from last week. Obviously, he had like 380, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and then Rum Dunze went off too. So I'll be interested to see if they can capitalize on that and then kind of carry over with another great connection. Obviously with DJ Moore and then also with Rum Dunze. I'm hoping that that kind of carries over throughout the year. So I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to give it to coaching. Like I said, I'm still not a fan of Matt Eberflus. Definitely not a fan of Shane Waldron. There's a lot of Bears fans who want to get rid of him, and I can see why. Especially that fourth and goal. That fourth and goal play was so stupid. But regardless, that was last game. That's
Yeah.
why I'm going to go
So
with the Rams because coaching specifically.
Jonah Jackson is out. He's on IR, and Steve Avila is supposed to come back in November. So,
Hmm.
and I didn't see anything about No Boom, but um, I don't know. Those two guys are maulers that they lost, Jackson and Avila. So that is kind of big losses, but it's said that they'll be back. So, um, next game we have is Minnesota at Green Bay. Jordan Love's back, at least slated to be. Now, how healthy is he going to be? I don't know. I know this is like you want to win this game, obviously. I worry a little bit. Like they have a bye next week. I would have I would have played Malik Willis another week, and that gives you 2 weeks for him to get healthy because you'd have this game and then you have the bye, and then you come out week 6. So I would have probably just I don't love rushing him back like this. Like I know that you want to win these divisional games, but 2-2 is not a hole that you just can't get out of, especially with how the rest of the NFC has kind of looked. Like even if you're 2-2, you'd be perfectly fine as long as like you can get Jordan Love even more healthy. But he's gonna play. I'm done betting against Minnesota. Um, I think they're just a good team. So I'm going to take them to beat Green Bay. I know I'm not going to bank on Jordan Love being 100% healthy here. I think he's probably going to be very limited. Better thrower than Malik Willis, obviously, even if he is limited. But I'm going to take Minnesota because I'm just going to be like, I think Brian Flores, great defense coordinator, and I'm kind of done banking on Sam Darnold regressing because he looks really good.
I'm gonna say I agree with you. I think that I think the key to the game is going to be Brian Flores' defense against Jordan Love. Especially the second half of the season last year, and then also going into really going into the Eagles game. Jordan Love's performance really well again under pressure. Now, how is that going to be with him coming back from his injury? Usually the Packers are pretty good about, not trying to rush anybody back. So if they believe that Jordan Love is good, then I'm going to put my faith that he is good. Plus, also, it might be the fact like, yes, we have a bye, so he can play. And if something doesn't feel right, then you have an extra week to kind of like, rehab it a little bit more, but you're still giving him back um some play. So that's the thing that I'm thinking about. Secondly, Sam Darnold is going to go against a very opportunistic Packers defense. So far, Xavier McKinney has 3 interceptions each in the last each in the games, and Jair Alexander's a really good cornerback. It'll be interesting to see how they play Justin Jefferson. I am going to go with the Packers, and here's why. So obviously, Sam Darnold has been looking good. I want to take you back to 2021. Sam Darnold, first game to the Panthers. We started 3-0. Our third game was also against the Texans, which is kind of weird. And then he didn't play bad in the Dallas game, but like as the season went on, he started to play even worse. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm pointing that as kind of a weird scenario. I think Sam Darnold has played well, and he's played well against good teams, but not necessarily opportunistic defenses. So I'm wondering if like his turnover problems are going to come up in this Packers game because so far it hasn't. But I think there's opportunity there that even if Jordan Love doesn't look as good, I think the defense is going to be able to put them in positions that with their newer kicker who's been playing pretty well, They win a close one. I'm thinking like a 27-24. It's gonna be one of the best games this week. There's a lot of good games this week too. So I'm going with the Packers. I'm iffy on it, but I just have that feeling. So I'm gonna go with the Packers.
All right. Next, we have Pittsburgh at Indy. Undefeated Pittsburgh versus Indy, who's looked not amazing. What do you have here?
Uh, I'm gonna say that Anthony Richardson is gonna make a lot of great plays, but he's also probably gonna be picked off twice. I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I think it's gonna be a close game. I'm interested to see how the Colts defense does against Saints offense, but I think the defense is going to put them in good spots, especially because, I mean, they've been they've been a really good group so far, and I don't think it's going to change against the Colts. So I think it's going to be a low scoring game, but I think the Steelers are going to pull it out. So they're going to go 4-0, which is
Yeah,
really crazy to say.
I've also got Pittsburgh going 4-0 here. I trust this defense, the really good defense against a quarterback that has wow plays, but also has a lot of what are you doing plays. And I think TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick and the rest of this group, I think they're going to get a lot of pressure. I think they're going to bait him into throws. And Pittsburgh just does enough on offense. They take care of the football. They run like this is a bad run defense matchup. The Steelers want to run the ball, and they've done a pretty good job of it. And the Colts haven't really done a good job running the ball, stopping the run against teams that actually have tried to run the ball. So I think it's going to be a bad matchup. I think Indy might stay in it a little bit. I think it might be a touchdown game, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh to move to 4-0. And hey, watch out. They got a really workable schedule. They could very realistic. I think they play Dallas next week. They could very realistically open like 6-7-0. Who knows?
What's kind of crazy is their back half of schedule. That like with Hard Knocks coming in, like I think it's like week 10 onwards for the AFC North. That's going to be an interesting division going forward. With the way that the Bengals are 0-3, you got the Ravens 1-2, you got the Browns are dumpster fire, and then you got the Steelers who are probably going to go into that with like, you know, heck, probably the number 2 seed, like to start in week 10, which is like just crazy to think about it from the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Next we have Denver at New York. Obviously Denver got their first win last week. They actually against a Bucks team that everyone thought was really good. Um, in New York, you kind of saw Aaron Rodgers bounce back, and he kind of looked more like, yeah, this is Aaron Rodgers. I think he's starting to get his legs under him a little bit. I'm going to take the Jets here. I think this defense is starting to play better, but also if Aaron Rodgers continues to play like this, you're a Super Bowl contender. I don't care what the rest of your weapons look like because at the end of the day, if you have Aaron Rodgers and he's playing good football, you're a Super Bowl contender because that's the kind of quarterback he is. And he does a great job of keeping the ball out of harm's way, which is unlike quarterbacks that they've had there in the last couple of years. Aaron Rodgers really doesn't turn the ball over. He can make those big shots. He puts the ball where only his receivers can get them. And against a Denver team that's been very up and down, mainly down this season, I'm going to take the Jets to win this game,
I'm also taking Jets. It's another Nathaniel Hacker revenge game.
which moves them to
Obviously
3-1 on the
they
season
won.
too.
Yep, and they beat them last year too. But I agree. I think, especially watching the last Thursday night game, like just his ability to read the defense, put them in position because he did a lot of times with Alan Lazard. I think he did twice. I saw where like they changed the route because of the way they were playing him. Just because like he has that connection, that he kind of has that connection now with Garrett, and you were able to see that too. Especially like Garrett was getting those third down conversions. It was very very nice to see like him being back, and he's also like when we're talking about like him moving, like he was able to escape the pressure, able to pick up like 2 first downs like with his legs. So I agree. I think it's gonna be closer than obviously the Patriots game, but I think that the Jets defense is gonna frustrate a Bo Nix, and I think that Bo Nix hasn't thrown a passing touchdown. Let's see if he can throw a passing touchdown this game. I don't know. So I'm gonna go with the Jets handling the Broncos.
Yeah. Then we have Philly at Tampa Bay, a rematch of last year's wild card game. It's in Tampa, just like it was last year.
Mhm.
Philly is coming off a 2 weeks where they've kind of played like they haven't played great football. I don't think AJ Brown's back. Who knows if Devontae
I don't
Smith
think
is
so.
playing? Probably not going to play. So you're probably going to be down your top two receivers. I know Saquon Barkley's probably he's if he's not the MVP favorite, he's probably top three. Um, Tampa Bay, I don't think Vita. I think Vita Vea's done for the season. Is he?
I just know he's out for a little bit. Is he done for the season?
I
Because
don't think so.
that's gonna be rough for a very young defense.
He's out this Sunday at least,
Yeah.
which is a big loss to a team that needs to be able to stop the run here. I want my gut says take Tampa Bay because I don't trust this Eagles team. So I'm gonna take Tampa Bay because I worry about how this Philly offense is gonna work without their top two weapons. You can only rely on Saquon and Goddard for like doing everything for so long, and Jalen Hurts has not been that good to start the season. So I'm gonna take Tampa Bay to win.
I'm gonna take the Eagles, but I do agree it's gonna be a very, very like big kind of slugging game. It's really going to come down to how Todd Bowles' defense is able to apply pressure to Jalen Hurts. Obviously, being down your top two wide receivers is going to put you in a little bit of downspin for the Eagles. But if you're able to establish the run and you don't really have to go away from that, then you can do that. You can do those play action shots. You can uh, kind of take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts that Todd Bowles definitely doesn't want to do because he wants to apply some blitzes to him. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, but I agree. It's one of those toss up games that I'm really just going based on the fact that I think the Eagles have more overall talent. And also after what happened last week, where it was a very close game, there's still like that, or that like kind of like the surrounding fog of just like we're not playing as good, we're not playing as good, we should be better. I think they're going to try to pull it out, try to keep that team together because they
Yeah.
desperately need to.
And then we have your team next, Cincinnati going to Carolina. Obviously, Cincinnati is winless.
Mhm.
Carolina got their first win last week, and Andy Dalton's the starter. I assume he's going to be the starter again.
Yes.
Who are you taking in this game?
This is a revenge game for Andy Dalton. I think that as we've seen, the Bengals are struggling to really stop the run. Um, if our offensive line continues as they've been doing, not really like week one, there was a little bit of a problem, but since then, like our defense has and our offensive line has done like a really, really good job of especially in pass protection and also run blocking. I think, like I said, we've done a really good job. So it's going to come down to really to Chuba. If Chuba is going to get really involved in the offense, I feel pretty confident that we could win. But I am going with the Bengals. I'm going against my team mainly because I'm I'm iffy, and also it's one of those things like last week how I picked the Ravens mainly because I also thought that Derrick Henry was going to do well. I didn't think he was going to do as well, but it's so hard for me to think that the Bengals are going to start the season 0-4. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think that Andy Dalton's going to play well, but I think ultimately the Bengals are going to pull it out. It's going to be unfortunate, but think because we feel like okay, the Bengals are still a good team, and we took them to the edge. Like we basically almost beat them. I think we're still going to be like kind of
Would you
as
say you
a
edged?
moral
Would you say
victory.
that you edged the Bengals?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I think I stand by that. Um, I think that we'll have like that moral victory of like maybe we lost, but at the same exact time we're on the right path. Because my main concern, I'm hoping that it's not a fluke. I'm hoping that Andy Dalton just coming for one game is not just fluke, and it continues to be bad. So I'm
Football is
hopeful.
a game of moral victories. So
Yeah, I'm hopeful, but I'm also very cautious. So, what about you?
I'm gonna take the Bengals. I think it'll be somewhat close. I think the Bengals really their offense kind of found their stride against the Commanders. Now their defense is not very good, but I also do like I think that y'all gonna score a bit on that defense, but also I think Andy Dalton comes down to earth a little bit. Not gonna play as good as he did. I just don't know if y'all are gonna be able to really keep up because y'all's defense is still not very good. And with how the Bengals kind of like figured it out with Chase and Burrows starting to turn up a little bit, I think Cincinnati handles business here. I think they win by a touchdown, maybe a little bit more than that, but it'll be close until I think late in the fourth quarter. And then we have Jacksonville at Houston. Good thing Houston's coming up a bye last week. They didn't play. Um, so nothing really to talk about with Houston from last week. Uh,
Um, I think we need to talk a little bit about it.
I
You don't have to go into
I mean,
detail.
there's nothing to talk about. They were on a bye week. We
Well,
didn't play.
I don't think that our listeners are going to really take that as fact. I think there's a little bit of fake news there, buddy. I think you need to talk
I
about your
don't.
Texans.
I don't know what they're talking. I don't
I
remember
had to
Houston
talk about
playing.
the Panthers for 2 weeks straight about being blown out. You have to talk about the Texans at least
Okay.
1 week.
All right. Fire D'Amico Ryans.
Okay.
No. Okay. Don't actually. I
No, no,
will
no,
say
no, no, no. You put that on video. You finally put it on a video of one of of your interesting rants. Go in. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go in.
so. I thought the defensive game plan last week for this Houston Texans was terrible. One of the worst defensive game plans I've seen in a while. They were just like, let Justin Jefferson, we don't put any hands on him. He just gets tons of free releases, and he's really good like that. And then also couldn't really stop the run. And I have said before, so I think that can get figured out. I get frustrated a lot of times with D'Amico's scheme. I think he's way too passive. I want to see him dial it up more, and he just didn't. And he just let Sam Darnold get back there and just pick us apart, and that's kind of embarrassing. On the offensive side, I am not as positive on Bobby Slowick. I am not a huge Bobby Slowick guy. Um, and I think there's a lot of Texans fans that are somewhat coming around on that idea that maybe he's not like I think he's a good offensive coordinator for the Shanahan scheme, but we don't have the personnel for that. We have three really good receivers, and he forces the run over and over when it doesn't work. And last week, the amount of second and long, third and 12s that we were putting ourselves in was infuriating because then it's like, oh, and then we do this stupid, like, we have to like bail ourselves out. And Stroud, I thought, still played fine. We only put up 7 points. But the other thing is just pre snap penalties. Um, Laramie Tunsil, I think, has 11 pre snap penalties on the season. Pathetic. Like, dude is getting paid $30 million a year. And he's a good blocker, but if you're going to keep killing drives, there was like 4 drives he killed last week. I mean, he negated a huge Tank Dell catch. There was a big Nico Collins catch he negated with just these stupid can't line up correctly. He would false start. We had like a 2nd and 2, and then he false starts twice, and all of a sudden we're looking at a 2nd and 12, and then we don't, and the drive stalls. That happens so many times. He's a 10-year veteran or like a 9-year veteran, and he's still doing this stuff. It pisses me off. But talking about Jacksonville going to Houston, I'm going to take Houston to win because I'm hopeful and because the Jags look dreadful. But we should blow them out. If we are an actually good team, we should beat them by 14 plus. The line is Houston -7. If we win by anything less than 10, I will be disappointed.
It's only -7.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if y'all don't win at least by 10. Yeah.
If
No,
we don't win by
I'm
10, I'd be disappointed.
I'm taking the Texans. Obviously, coming off that Monday Night Massacre, it's going to be very hard for you as a team to really bounce back from that because it was just so bad, and they haven't looked good at all.
You're talking
Besides,
about
like,
the
oh well,
Jags.
you can say, yeah, I'm talking about the Jags.
You said
Like,
y'all.
oh, sorry, sorry, my bad. But yeah, sorry about that. But outside of the first half of the Bengals game, of the Dolphins game, you haven't looked good. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
Jaguars. Um, I don't see it really changing against the Texans team that, like you said, just got embarrassed. I think they have a good head coach, and that's going to rally around him and be like, "Hey, that's not what the Texans are about." And it's I said at the beginning of the season that Balky and Peterson are going to get fired. I did not think it might be before week 10. I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think Peterson lasts the season, but now we hit our. That's it for the noon slate. Now we're into the afternoon slate. Washington at Arizona. Um, Washington got their second win
Second,
of the
because
season.
they beat the
Yeah,
Giants.
yeah, and they have not punted in 2 games. So that's notable. I think I think Arizona's a good team. I think both of these teams are sneaky. I'm gonna
Yes,
take Arizona. They didn't look, but Kyler Murray had a rough game last week. The offense as a whole, I think, had a rough game last week. I think this is this is a good team to bounce back against. I'm not like sold on the defense of the Commanders. I think it's solid. It's okay. It's still a pretty bad defense in my opinion. Arizona is also not the greatest defense in the world, but I think they're going to get it done. The over under on this game is 50.5. I think that goes over.
I think it goes over too. I'm going to be honest. I had this with Nathaniel Hackett getting a revenge game. I'm going to go with the Commanders. I'm really surprised that I'm going with the Commanders in this one, but because of the fact that last week, obviously, Kyler Murray didn't have the best game, but I think it's mainly because like the Lions defense is really stinking good. I think that it's going to be a back and forth game. I think both Kyler and Jaden Daniels are going to have probably definitely over like close to like 230 passing, probably close to like to 60 yards rushing each. Like they're going to like it's going to be that show. I'm gonna because I think it's going to be one of those things. If Cliff Kingsbury beats the Cardinals, is one like he gets his revenge off of them firing him. So I'm going with them, but I just think it's going to be a really good game. I'm going with my gut, so Commanders win.
All right. We've differed a little bit here on a couple of these games. Now we have
Hmm.
New England at San Fran. Last time we saw New England, they looked bad on um, Thursday
All
Night
fronts.
Football, and San Fran's coming off that loss to to the Rams. What are you taking this one?
I'm taking the 49ers easily. I think mainly because I think they're going to be able to apply pressure on Jacob Brissett. So I don't think that they're just going to be able to, establish the run. I know that they were able to, that the Rams were able to run against them, but I think that's more so Sean McVay than it is going to go against Alex Van Pelt, the offense coordinator for the Patriots. So I'm going with the 49ers. I think Brett Purdy's going to have another great game. I'm interested to see who Christian Gonzalez lines up on. Christian Gonzalez lined up against Garrett Wilson, gave him all that he really could, but in the end, Garrett Wilson beat him a couple times because Garrett Wilson he's just so good. So I'm interested to see what the scheme is on defense. So I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I'm still taking the 49ers easily.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers here too. I just think this defensive front's going to wreck. The offensive line last week was really bad for New England. It's a good thing that they're letting May sit this season because he just get killed, and you don't want to ruin his development.
You
So
don't want him to
just
be Bryce Young.
yeah, just let the Niners just sack Jacoby Brissett a bunch, and then just look forward to the best tackle in the draft, like Kelvin
Yeah.
Banks. Welcome to New England. Honestly,
Push.
they'll probably double up on and offensive line in the first 3 rounds. I would
Yeah.
really guess that. So
Or probably like
just
a wide receiver too, somewhere in
yeah,
there.
and just
Because
just
it's a pretty good wide receiver group too.
yeah, just really focus on offensive line here because it's bad. But they just keep sitting Drake May. No need to rush him because he's going to get killed behind this offensive line. And Nick Bosa is probably going to have 2 sacks in this game. Um,
Honestly, they should have like little like insurance payments to Jacob Brissett, just like thank you
thank
so
you
much for just taking the
for
punishment.
taking the punishment here.
Yep.
Then we have Cleveland at Las Vegas. Cleveland lost this week to the Giants. They do not look like a good football team. Now the Raiders also lost to a not good football team either, or at least we thought. In the Panthers, I have more faith in Las Vegas bouncing back, because one, they don't have a pedophile as their quarterback. Two, I think I just like the way they kind of play a little bit better. It's at home. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to take Las Vegas. Gardner Minshew, I think, is better. Just overall, I think he's just a better quarterback, and they have better weapons. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers has been really good to start the season. So
Mhm.
I'm going to take Las Vegas because I'm not going to pick Cleveland at all because I hate them and I hate everything about Cleveland. So
Yeah, I'm not taking Cleveland either. I'm expecting the Raiders to bounce back. I mean, you get embarrassed in your home. Like, I expect Antonio Pierce to kind of like hopefully get that team back to be like, hey, we need to get back to who we really are. I'm also interested to see what the Max Crosby deal because this past game he had a little bit of a tweak of his ankle, so like he wasn't as effective. Now, obviously, I think also Taylor Moton did a really good job against him too, but I hope that's not a thing that's going to carry over into this game. I also think it's going to be a very, very low scoring game because I think with the Browns defense getting embarrassed like they did, because I think may kind of scheme against Malik Neighbors because I don't know why they just would not put hands on him. I'm interested to see how Miles Garrett is going to go against this offensive line. That's kind of like it's a pretty bad offensive line. So I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think they bounce back, but I think it's going to be like a one of those 17-13 kind of games.
and then our final noon slate, or not noon slate, afternoon slate game is Kansas City at the Chargers. Chargers finally lost. Kansas City still undefeated. They've played in a lot of close games, um, but I don't think that this is where they lose. I just think I think the Chargers are a little bit far away. I just it's going to be really hard for me to pick against Kansas City to win, so I'm just going to keep running Kansas City here.
Also, what's the update on Justin Herbert? Because I know he got hurt and he
He's
left the game.
um he I think is playing. Uh, they're yeah, he's supposed to start.
Okay. I'm still going to take the Chiefs because I think the Chiefs defense is definitely going to keep them in there because statistically, the Chargers defense has been playing really, really well. But I think that ultimately Chiefs win. It's always going to be a back and forth kind of game. But Chris Jones not only has Aiden Hutchinson been living up to the we'll talk about that in a little bit with Monday night as far as like being part of that defensive player of the year. But Chris Jones again, like he hasn't won it yet. I think this is probably his best opportunity because especially they could go all the way to this Super Bowl like with 3P. There's no Super Bowl champions without Chris Jones. So I'm gonna say that Chris Jones probably has like a sack, probably a batted pass or something like that, and a couple of tackles that really messes up with this Chargers defense that wants to run the ball.
Yeah. It says Herbert is may not play. I don't know. There's not really a lot on there. But even if he does play, I don't know if it's really going to make a difference here. But then we have a good Sunday night game. At least we expect it to be a good Sunday night game. We have Buffalo going into Baltimore. Baltimore obviously just got their first win. Buffalo looks really good to start the season. Who are you taking here, Ryan?
I'm taking Buffalo. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think that obviously it's really going to come down to which Ravens decide to show up and at which quarter because I think that the Ravens have all the talent in the world. It's really just piecing it together. I expect that Isaiah Likely is going to have a bigger game last week because they're just able to run down the, all over the Cowboys. They didn't really have to. I think they're going to they're going to have to open up their offense a little bit more because I think that Sean McDermott is going to put an emphasis on like we need to stop Derrick Henry at all costs, make Lamar have to beat us, which sometimes that works in their favor, especially if Lamar kind of gets into his head a little bit and makes some bad passes. But I'm going to go with the Bills, keep themselves undefeated, and this is or not like I said earlier, this is one of those games that's going to impact seeding when it comes later on to the playoffs. So I'm going with the Bills.
I'm also going to go with the Bills. Right now, they are the number one pass blocking offensive line in the NFL. I think they have a really good job. Josh Allen is probably the MVP favorite right now. If I had to pick, he's playing really good football. This defense is good. They're able to run the ball. Is really balanced. They haven't really asked Josh Allen to be like, oh, do some superhero stuff. They're just playing good football. They're just marching down the field and they're scoring at a really high rate. And this game I think is gonna be a lot closer, but I think this front for Buffalo has played really well. Von Miller is playing really well this season, and against an offensive line that I don't really like in Baltimore, I'm gonna take a defensive front that I think is gonna kind of wreak havoc a little bit. Now Justin Herbert might make some mistakes like he sometimes does, but he's also gonna bail him
Justin
out.
Herbert or
Justin
Lamar?
Josh Allen. Sorry, I don't
Josh
know
Allen. Okay.
Josh Allen. But I'm going to ride with Buffalo. I think that they've been one of, if not the best team so far in the NFL. And I know it's tough. Baltimore will be starting 1-3, but their schedule lightens up a little bit more after this.
Mm.
So it's not as tough. I know they have the Bengals next week, but then it's kind of an easier schedule for the next 4 or 5 games. So it does lighten up for them. So I'm going to be taking the Bills. We're both riding with them. And then we have a double Monday night game again.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is not very good.
No.
Truth be told, it's not a very good game. It's Tennessee at Miami. Tim Boyle's in line to start for Miami. Dude, I hate this. I'm going to take Miami.
Really?
I like their dude. This game's gonna be like 13-10. This is a really hard game for me. I'm probably gonna switch on this later in the week.
Uh-huh.
I just think Will Levis is gonna make some stupid mistakes, and I don't know. This game is gonna suck so bad. I don't want to even talk about it.
I agree. I think that Will Levis is going to make some mistakes. That's going to set up Tim Boyle, who sucks. Put him in some pretty good situations, especially with Jason Sanders. Oh, you didn't give a score prediction. What was your score prediction?
13-10.
13-10. Okay. But I'm going to go with the Titans mainly because I think that even though Will Levis does make some stupid decisions, I still believe enough that their offense is going to be better than the Dolphins' offense. And I think both defenses are going to play well. So I think Tim Boyle is going to make a mistake that sets up the Titans in a favorable position. And I think Will Levis is going to make some mistakes to put to like tie the game for the Dolphins. I think it's going to be 13-13 until it goes into overtime, and then the Titans win 19-13 on a touchdown. I think it's going to be it's going to be what it was last year, where they go into overtime, but it's not going to be a good game. It's going to be absolutely horrible. So 19-13.
I'm not going to be watching this game. I know they have the double blocks.
I'm not sure. I'm not streaming that game. I might stream the ending.
But they have the double box for like the Monday night games, the dual ones. I'm not going to put this one on. I'm just going to keep this game on. Seattle at Detroit.
Yes.
I will just be singular boxing this game. Who are you taking in this one?
Oh, dude. I was going back and forth. Because obviously I think Seattle has a really good defense. I've loved what McDonald's done so far. I also think the Lions have really good defense too. I think Aiden Hutchinson against a Seattle offensive line that's been on and off and been off for most of the year. I'm gonna go with the Lions. The past 2 times they played, it's been high scoring, so I'm gonna go a little bit on the higher scoring, but not as high of scoring as it has been. I'm gonna go Lions win 31-27. Seattle's driving down the field, and unfortunately, they can't score a touchdown. I think it's gonna be one of those games where like the Lions defense has to come in clutch, and they're able to get a stop. But I think it's going to be such a good game that I'm ready to stream that game, and I might do updates on the Titans Dolphins game, but I am not watching a fraction of that game unless it shows up on my screen.
Yeah, I'm going to be going with Detroit. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Detroit.
Yeah, it's hard. It's rough.
It's so hard because I really like this defense for Seattle. But it's in Detroit. This defense is playing really well. I think these quarterbacks are about even. I'm just gonna say I think that Detroit's a little bit farther along. I still don't totally buy into this offensive line for Seattle. I think Kenneth Walker's supposed to be back this week. So that'll be a help. Let me see. I think he's supposed to be back this week. Yeah,
I
he's
think he's
playing
right.
today in practice.
Okay, I was wondering if it was like questionable right now.
He is questionable, but I think
Yeah.
he is going to play. So that'll definitely help. But I'm still going to ride with Detroit. What was your score prediction again?
I said 31-27.
I'm going to go with 27-23. Detroit. So I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be more of a defensive battle. I just think that Detroit is going to. They put up yards in all their games. They just haven't punched it in as much. I think this might be kind of where they start to figure it out. Even though this is a really good defense, I like for Seattle. But it's a good week of football. I like a lot of these games. Some good like rivalry games. 2 good primetime games. Two not as good primetime games.
That's one way to put it.
But I don't know. I'm looking forward to this week. This is also like I said last week. This will be kind of the week where we really figure out where teams stand. If some teams drop to 0-4, 1-3, it's really hard to dig yourself out of those holes. Especially if you start 0-4, your season's pretty much wrapped. Like if the Bengals somehow lose to the Panthers, their season's probably over.
That's the reason why I had to go with the Bengals. I was like, I like the team is too talented to go 0-4 and then just, we're gonna make the playoffs. Like you still have to go through the gauntlet of the AFC North.
Yeah. But that has been our week 4 predictions here at Gridiron Gurus. Thank you for listening and see you on the next one.